hungry here. Our next candidate, I want to make sure I get it right this time. Running for Congress, once again, 3rd Congressional District, Tom Suozzi.
Thank you, Warren. Thank you very much for having me here tonight. I appreciate it very much. I'm very excited to be here. I'm happy to be at the Clearview Golf Course and to see all of you. That's one very positive thing. I'm very happy that I'm getting a free bloomin' onion for being here as well. My son Joseph's favorite restaurant is Outback Steakhouse. He hasn't been to one of the days like, oh no, he hasn't been here one time I was campaigning. But it's his favorite place. I just dropped him off at college this week at Boston College. Caroline is 21, she's at Fordham. And Michael is 13 at Beckman. So I'm happy for that. And the third reason I'm happy to be here tonight is because it's the first time in this election season that myself, Mr. Prideaux, and Mr. Martins are all in the same room, all 3 candidates running for office. So let's give them all a round of applause for we're finally here all together. Because, you know, people are talking about corruption. It's a very major problem, certainly in the state legislature. And other places throughout government. It's a problem, I believe, in the federal government as well. It's a problem in a lot of places. The most important thing we need to do to fix broken government is to have competition. Because democracy, like capitalism, doesn't work without competition. People have to be willing to say, I have a better idea than you, I can do it for cheaper than you, I can give you better service than the other person. Without competition, it doesn't work. Right now, the United States Congress has a 14% approval rating. It's probably even lower than that right now. The last time I checked, it was 14%. Yet 95% of the incumbents are always reelected. Now, how could that be? Because the system is broken as far as the competition that takes place in our politics today because of the way that districts are gerrymandered, because of campaign finance rules related to this new thing, Citizens United, is going to make it even worse. There's a broken system that we have in our country where people are more interested, elected officials are more interested in pleasing the people that are in the PACs and the people that troll the hallways of Albany and Washington, D.C., instead of actually responding to the people. So you need competition. Now, you heard about this weird thing that's gone on in this race that Mr. Prideaux described earlier. You know, Mr. Martins is trying to prevent Mr. Prideaux from being on the ballot originally, and it took like 4 or 5 months to get him on the ballot. And now he's challenging my, I have a line called Fix Washington. He's trying to kick me off the line. He's trying to kick Mike McDermott, the guy who's running as a Libertarian, off the line. And he's trying to change the election from November 8th until December. And he lost in court today. Federal judge says, we're not going to change the election from November to December. And right after that, he filed a notice of appeal that we are going to go to the Second Circuit. So I've been getting emails all day about they're going to spend more money on it. I had to spend $35,000 from my campaign fund to pay for lawyers to fight this thing. I can only imagine how much Prideaux and Martins have spent on this thing. But it's just crazy. We should be talking about the issue. So the issues in this race are that Washington is broken. We all know that it's broken. I don't care. I heard a lot of Republicans here tonight. I'm sure there's a lot of Democrats here as well. Everybody knows it's broken. It's broken with the Democrats. It's broken with the Republicans. Things are not getting done. And think of all the things that we've been talking about for decades in this country, about the problems that exist, whether it's the major issue that people are concerned about, which is jobs and the economy right now, and this whole idea of income inequality is very real. But then think about like gun violence, and think about immigration, and think about health care. Everybody's upset about the Obamacare. You know, let's do something about it. People are climate change. All these different issues we've been talking about, not 10 years, 20, 30 years we've been talking about these issues, but then they don't get fixed. So what's wrong? What's going on? People have to recognize the fact. You want to give this guy a notice? You want to give it to him or you want to give it to him? Yeah. What are you doing after school? Okay. Yeah, I'm a constituent services. That's what I'm doing. So, the status quo, okay? Somebody's benefiting from the way things are now. Remember that. When the status quo doesn't change, the reason it often doesn't change is because somebody's benefiting from the way it is now. So when it comes to the issue of gun violence, who's benefiting from the way it is now? Well, the gun manufacturers make a lot of money. You know, the sales of assault weapons went up after the shootings in Orlando, as hard as that is to imagine. Sales of assault weapons went up. He's talking about millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars. Who knows? Maybe hundreds of millions. Who knows? And when it comes to, you know, healthcare reform, who's benefiting? The health insurance companies and the prescription drug companies are benefiting from the way it is now. Climate change. The gas and oil industry are benefiting from the way it is now. They don't want you to do anything about it. So whatever the issue is, even immigration reform, you know, the agricultural industry that has a lot of these people work off the books in these huge factory farms are benefiting from the way it is now. So there's somebody that's always benefiting from the way it is now. If you want to change it, you need three things. You need three elements. First, you need an answer. What do you want to change it to? And a lot of times we spend, I think, quite frankly, too much time focusing on that part of the debate because, you know, everybody's yelling and screaming at each other, but nobody's actually getting it done. It's the getting it done part that we need to be focusing on even more. You know, unlike, I didn't tell you before, I'll give you my background right after this point. But when I was mayor and county executive, you know, we had to come up with our own ideas. If you go to Washington, D.C., which I hope to do, there's think tanks with every single possible permutation of the ideas of how to solve problems that you can choose from these different think tanks. But the first thing is the answer. What do you want to change it to? I lean more towards the Democratic side. The second thing you need is the guts. You have to be willing to fight against the status quo because the people that are benefiting from the way it is now are going to try and squash you like a bug. They're going to try and stop you from changing it. They're going to try and paint you as a caricature. They're going to make fun of you in TV commercials. They're going to do ad campaigns against you. They're going to run opponents against you. If you try and change it, they're going after you because they want to keep it the way it is now. And the third thing you need in order to change the status quo is you need the ability to actually win the fight. You have to know how to do the politics and the press and the bureaucracy and navigating through all these intricate things while your opponents are shooting darts at you. You have to be able to actually win the fight. So I believe that I'm the only candidate in this race that has demonstrated throughout my career that, you know, we all can have answers. I think we're all smart people, tax smart, flip smart, smart people. There's answers out there. We have differing philosophies on certain things. A lot of things. But I'm the only one who stood up to these powerful interests and fought them. Even when it cost me a lot politically, and I got beaten up because of it. And I won a lot of these battles. I lost them too. I won a lot of these battles along the way. So let me just say about my bio. I should have done that at the beginning. I apologize. So I'm from Glen Cove, Long Island. All the candidates are, none of the candidates are from Queens, unfortunately. There's three of us from Nassau. There's one guy from Suffolk, the Libertarian candidate from Suffolk. But I ran a primary, a five-way primary. It's good. You guys should try it. It's fun thing. It's a five-way primary, and I tried very hard that primary to become the Queens candidate by spending a lot of time here in Queens with the people of Queens. I really enjoyed campaigning in Queens, and I've pledged that if I'm fortunate enough to become the United States Congressman, that I will open a district office in Queens to make sure that Queens gets the attention that it deserves. And I'll focus on these issues, which I'm sure you'll ask about later, about airport noises, which is so important, and the whole problem of transportation desert here in Northeast Queens. I'll focus on those type of issues. Anyway, so I'm from Glen Cove. I went to St. Patrick's Grade School. I went to Chaminade All-Boys Catholic High School. I went to Boston College, and I studied accounting, and I went to go work for Arthur Anderson and Company. I worked there for 2 years, a big 8 accounting firm, if you remember those days, and I got my CPA. And then I went to law school, to Fordham Law School, and then I clerked for the Chief Judge of the Eastern District of New York. It was the federal courts. I clerked for the Chief Judge. We were in Brooklyn, and we went out to Uniondale after that. And then I worked for a big international law firm that the Doe family knows about well. And then I ran for mayor of my hometown. I was mayor of the city of Glen Cove for 8 years, and I loved that job. It was my favorite job. And then I ran for county executive of Nassau County, and I won a big upset in that race. I ran against the whole party. Won a primary that I wasn't supposed to win. I became the first Democrat in the Democratic legislature since 1917, and I cleaned up a lot of messes, but I got beaten up along the way there. Then I ran for governor of New York State in a Democratic primary against Eliot Spitzer. And boy, did I get crushed in that race. It was awful. It did not turn out very well for me. It did not turn out very well for Eliot Spitzer either. But my big issue in that race was I wanted to fight for a property tax cap, because that's the big problem that we face on Long Island. I raised property taxes my first year in office as county executive by a pretty big chunk. But I knew that the school taxes were the big problem, and I proposed a property tax cap, and that's what I campaigned on. And Spitz was against the property tax cap. And like I said, I got crushed like squashed like a bug in that race. But a year later, he was against the property tax cap, Spitzer. But a year later, he appointed me as chairman of the New York State Commission on Property Tax Relief. And I worked with Democrats and Republicans, upstate and downstate, urban and suburban and rural areas, and fought for a property tax cap. I wrote a big report on it as to why we have a property tax problem in New York State, proposed different solutions, one of which was the property tax cap. And we now have a property tax cap in New York State, passed by the governor and the state senate and the state assembly. But it took a lot to do that. Before that, I had done something else. I did a thing called FixAlbany.com, because I was talking about the broken system in Albany in 2003, in 2004, and 2005, and I said it's the Democrats as much to blame as the Republicans.
Time.
Oh, really? Okay. Somebody asked me a question about FixAlbany, will you?
My first question, really quick. Will, as I'm going to ask all the candidates, will you agree to not campaign or run ads on 9/11?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
My first primary for county executive of Nassau County was scheduled on 9/11, 2001. The election was canceled that day. I was in Mayor Glen Cove, and you know, we lost some people from Glen Cove, but also we had a high-speed ferry that was run by the Pt1 Indians at the time that went from Glen Cove up to London. And we arranged to have the ferry come into Manhattan to pick up people to help them escape from Manhattan that day. And I was on the phone with Richard Sherry, who was the head of emergency management, and with Bernie Kerrick, who was I guess, the head of the police department at the time. And we were arranging to take people into the city. We got volunteers, firefighters, and medical personnel, and emergency EMS people. They were going to go into the city to volunteer to help everybody. And as the hours went on, they said, don't send anybody in, there's nobody there. We were going to try and take the wounded out. It was just awful, awful. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Next question. How would you address the noise pollution on charter helicopters that use land routes over Whitestone and Base Terrace? And I just want to preface that by saying these charter helicopters are of no benefit whatsoever to our communities. People get on these helicopters in Manhattan. They travel over our communities to go out to the Hamptons or Montauk, where they get off and spend their money. So we don't even realize revenue from those charters, but what we do have is the noise. And how would you address that?
So it's both the helicopters and the airplanes. I heard Ed Bronson talking about earlier about the idea of changing the legislation to go from 65 decibels down to 55 decibels, and I would work very hard to try and make that change. And I would work very hard to try and find a Republican, if I'm a Democrat, find a Republican congressman in another part of the country that has a similar problem. We can't be the only place with this problem, where you're an urban center, where you have an airport, and there are aircraft flying overhead of residential neighborhoods. And I would work to build coalitions between Democrats and Republicans throughout different parts of the country. I would go right to the air traffic controller's tower. As a congressman, I can do that. I can't really do it now as a private citizen, but I go right to the air traffic controllers and talk to them and say, listen, why can't we, what do you guys think? How do we get this done? I would talk to the FAA. I would talk to Schumer, as Bronstein talked about. I talked to the state officials that have worked on it, the council people that are interested in this issue. I've already talked to residents about it. I'll continue to talk to residents about it. I went to the I Love Whitestone meeting not long ago, a couple months ago now. But I've heard a lot about this issue. The bottom line is, if they can reroute the aircraft over the tennis center when you have the U.S. Open, they can, it's not like it can't be done. It certainly can be done. The problem is that if you want to change the way it is now, somebody's benefiting from the way it is now. Who's benefiting from the way it is now? Well, it's going to cost more money if you have to fly higher, or it's going to cost more money and time if you have to change your route. So they're not going to want to spend the money, or it's going to cost more money if you're going to want to change the technology for the planes from 65 decibels down to 55 decibels. So the challenge is to build the consensus, build the political will, take the fight on against the people that refuse to change because they don't want to spend the money, and then figure out how you get something done that's reasonable. But it requires people that understand how government and politics and bureaucracy works.
One thing which people watch the State of the Union address, our current Congressman Steve Israel, always is one step behind the president when he leaves the rotunda. Whoever wins this election is basically going to be a freshman Congress member. What can you do to still keep our neighborhood and the whole district to get the same benefits of seniority?
So you have to understand how politics and government works. I mean, how to get things done. I mean, I was the mayor of a small little city, the city of Glen Cove, for 8 years. And it was a small city with 25,000 in the census. Well, actually more than that, but 25,000 in the census. I brought in $100 million to clean up polluted sites into our little small city. I brought in money to dredge our waterways. I brought in money to redo our sewage treatment plant. I brought in federal and state money to get things done. So I understand how this stuff works. And I will work very hard to build coalitions to make sure that I bring money back to the district. And there will be other people trying to help me to do that if they don't want me to keep the seat. So I think that I've proven, you know, we all say we're going to do this, I believe this, I believe this. I can do it because I've done it. I've got an experienced record of getting things done and fighting on behalf of the people I serve, even when I have to fight my own party to get it done. I didn't tell you about Fix Albany. I thought that was a proper segment.
As you mentioned about the air traffic or the aviation noise pollution, and I asked a question before about supporting Congresswoman Grace May's proposal that the EPA basically take over the situation with noise and air pollution that FAA has chosen to look the other way.
I'm generally against creating more bureaucracies. I'm against, we don't need more laws. We need to have less, we need to figure out, one of the things I want to do is get rid of 10 laws when I get to Congress, to try and get rid of some of the overlapping regulation and bureaucracy that we have. So I probably would not jump to do that. I mean, maybe I would do it in deference to Grace May because she's been thinking about it and working on this for such a long time, so I'd probably do it in deference to her. But my general instinct is I don't want to create some new bureaucracy. That's not usually the answer to things. It's usually to figure out how to fight to get something done from the existing system. But in deference to her, I would seriously consider it.
Okay, I have a brand new question. In 2015, New York State legalized the use of medical marijuana. However, the Obama administration has denied a bid by 2 Democratic governors to reconsider how it treats marijuana under federal drug control laws, keeping the drug, for now at least, in the most restrictive category for U.S. law enforcement purposes. Marijuana is considered a Schedule I drug under the Controlled Substances Act, alongside heroin and LSD, while other highly addictive substances, including oxycodone and methamphetamines, are regulated differently under Schedule II of the law. As long as medical marijuana remains a Schedule I drug, it can't be covered by medical insurance or prescribed by your regular medical practitioner. Would you support legalizing medical marijuana on a federal level?
Medical marijuana only you're talking about, right?
Only medical marijuana?
Medical marijuana, yes, I would support it. And not because I know what I'm talking about, but because medical experts have been talking about this all over the country for a while now, that say that we should be doing this. So I would accede to, you know, if they say how helpful this is to people that are really suffering from a lot of different diseases. So yes, I would support that.
Thank you.
I don't like the idea of legalizing marijuana generally, especially in New York State.
Okay, so the next question, and I don't want any of the candidates to think that I'm not treating them fairly. The first question along this is, who will you be supporting for president?
Hillary Clinton.
Okay. Are there any...
Supreme Court.
Are there any areas where you yourself in disagreement with Secretary Clinton?
I do not want to see a federal income tax increase. I think that New York State is a huge net donor to the federal government, and the 3rd Congressional District is a huge net donor to the federal government, which means we give so much more to the federal government than we get back in services. And I don't want to see it, when federal tax policy was first set up, first thinking about FDR and the Great Society, we were helping our poor brothers and sisters in other places in the country with our tax dollars to keep up with us, because we were such a strong economic engine. As a matter of fact, most of the blue states are net donors. Most of the red states are net takers, with the exception of Texas. And we are subsidizing North Carolina and South Carolina and Arizona. And when people leave here, because it's so expensive to live here, where are they going? North Carolina and South Carolina and Arizona. Oh, it's so cheap to live here. It's so cheap to live here. But we're paying to help them build their new roads and new bridges and new hospitals and new sewers, and they're expanding, and they're going through new suburban sprawl, and they're getting expanded tax bases and more sales tax revenues and more income tax revenues, and they're growing like wildfire, and they're beating us. While we get the same money, which is actually less money, we're fixing our old roads and our old sewers and our old bridges and our old infrastructure. So we have to fight to get our money back into our state on some of these big ticket items like mass transit and on other things that the Republican Party as a whole does not support. We need to bring money back into New York State that we're sending to the federal government. So we have wealthy people here. We want wealthy people to pay more than non-wealthy people do. Okay, I believe in the progressive income tax. That's the way it should be. But we've got a lot of people who live here that are not wealthy. That we need to bring the money back from the federal government to help our people and help our infrastructure. And like I said, our roads, our sewers, our bridges, our tunnels, our infrastructure.